Welcome to a tutorial on how to graph different types of functions in MathAS. In this tutorial, we'll review how to graph a linear function, a quadratic function, an absolute value function, and a rational function. We'll also review how to graph a circle, as well as plot a point. Let's first graph a linear function, so we select the line tool, which is here on the left. To graph a line, we need to click on 2 points on the line. So let's say one point is the point 0, 5, which would be here. So we click on the first point. Notice how the line tool appears, and now we need to click on the second point on the line. Let's say the second point is the point 5, 1, which would be here. So a single click graphs a line, and the line is complete. But if we do want to make adjustments to the line, notice how if we move the pencil over one of the points that we plotted, the tool turns to an arrow tool, and now we can click and drag the line to make adjustments. And this works from either point on the line. So we have a pencil, but if we move it over one of the points, it turns to an arrow tool, and we can click and drag the line to make adjustments. This is how we graph a line using MathAS. Now let's clear the line, and now let's graph a quadratic function, which would make a parabola shown here. So let's click on the parabola tool. To graph a parabola, we need to click on the vertex and then another point on the graph. So let's say the vertex is at the point 4, -6, which is here. So single click on the vertex. Notice if we move the mouse from here, a parabola is formed. We need to move the second red point to another point on the parabola. Let's say we also know the point 2, -1 is on the parabola. So we move the mouse to 2, -1 and make a single click. And now the parabola is graphed. Again, we can move this pencil over either this point or the vertex of the parabola and make adjustments. If I move the pencil over this second point, I can click and drag and make adjustments. And I can do the same using the vertex. This is how you graph a parabola using MathAS. Next, let's graph an absolute value function, which makes a V-shape. So let's clear this graph, and now we'll select the absolute value function tool here, and we graph an absolute value function just like we graph a quadratic function. We first click on the vertex. Let's say the vertex is located at -5, 6. So single click on the vertex, and now we move the cursor to a second point on the absolute value function. Let's say it also contains the point -2, 1, which would be here. Another single click completes the graph. And again, we can make adjustments by moving the pencil over either the vertex or the other point on the graph. So we have an arrow tool here, which we can now use to make adjustments. And again, the same thing with the vertex. Next, let's graph a rational function. So let's clear the absolute value function. We use this tool for a rational function. So let's click on this tool. The first step is to click the point of intersection of the horizontal and vertical asymptotes. Let's say that occurs at the point 1, -3, which is here. So single click, and notice how the horizontal and vertical asymptotes appear as dashed green lines. And now we need to click on one point on the rational function. Let's just say we know the rational function contains the point 3, -1, which is here. So single click on 3, -1, and again the graph is complete. Just as before, we can make adjustments by moving the cursor over either of these 2 points. So if we move it over the intersection of the horizontal and vertical asymptotes, we can click and drag the graph to make adjustments. And the same thing using the point on the graph here. Let's go ahead and clear this function and graph a circle. So we'll click on the circle tool. To graph a circle, we click on the center point and then one point on the circle. So let's say the circle has a center of -4, 1, which is here. So single click move the mouse to one point on the circle. Let's say we know that the circle contains the point 2, 1, which is here. Single click and the circle is complete. And again, we can make adjustments by moving the cursor over one of these 2 red points and dragging the circle to a different location. And then finally, to plot a point, we use the point tool here. So let's clear the circle, click on the point tool, and we plot points just as we would expect. To plot the point -2, 8, we would click here, and we can adjust this point by moving the mouse over the point where we get the arrow tool, and we can drag the point to a different location. We can also plot multiple points on the same coordinate plane. We can also plot multiple functions on the same coordinate plane, which we normally do not do, though, in typical homework questions. I hope you found this helpful.